Go, Jimmy. Jimmy. When I do that, I know there's a little bit of lag to the game. It's pretty, but I'm actually in battle right now. I'm just like 30 seconds ahead of what the stream is. Jimmy.
Yes. Go. Volcano.
See if I can turn off the full screen. That'll help with this delay. See what I mean? Hate that shit. Trying to get you guys a better view of the game. I mean, it's a lot better than what it was. Yeah. I think I might have to go back around. Yeah. God, I can't believe it's been 20 years since the previous game and I still know what to do. I actually recently, well, not recently, when I after bought my PS3, I actually rebought this game, and then for the longest time, I couldn't play it on my PS4 unless I had my PS3 hooked, you know, just because of the stupid updates or whatever, and you know, terms, whatever. So I couldn't play it for the longest. I didn't play it for the longest time, but now I was able to re-download it because of one of the recent updates on the PS4. I just hope that they let us be able to download it on PS5. But I kind of wish that they would just literally give us a like a remastered version where the graphics look better and shit, you know.
Yes. Go.
I
Volcano.
mean, in my opinion, the graphics, the cinematics look good. Just the rest of the game, the story is awesome. Not, I mean, a lot of people debated that all the time too. But with this, between this and
Yes.
uh, Final Fantasy VII, but this was the first one that had, or Final Fantasy VIII. This was the first one that had actual voice acting during the cinematics as far as RPG goes. I mean, it's kind of, you know, video games are video games and the stories are kind of weird, but I mean, stories are stories. You gotta get attacked. Yep. Again.
Yes. Go.
In my opinion, the story is awesome because you actually, you know, the game is awesome because you can play with dragons and shit, and people that turn into dragons.
Yes.
Originally, Final Fantasy VIII was supposed to have voice acting in it, but I don't remember if it was time restraints or cost. Or maybe it was a combination, but
Yes. Go. Volcano. Yes.
Quick smack.
This is where coming back to a scene is where uh, we get Labyrinth's Dragoon, if I remember right. I have no idea where I'm going, so I'm just kind of randomly going places right now anyway. Trying to level them up. It's
Whip smack. Yes. Go. Volcano. Whip smack. Yes. Go. Volcano.
I think. I think I'm going to put on some Spotify. see, I think I'm going to put on the casual criminals. This guy's kind of funny. But, as of the name, he goes over criminal cases. So, and then he just adds in his own commentary and he feels fate.
Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Casual Criminalist. I, as always, am your host. What happens here is Callum has put me together a script. I'm looking at it right now. It's Magdalena Solis, the High Priestess of Blood. Oh my god. That sounds like it's going to get intense. I'm going to read it, and then afterwards, Jen, our wonderful video editor, is going to add in some music if you're listening to this, and then also some images if you're watching it. If you're listening to this podcast and be like, whoa, this would be perfect with some imagery. Well, guess what? This show's on YouTube. If you're on YouTube thinking, oh boy, I wish I could easily listen to this in the car, well, guess what? You don't need that YouTube premium. You can just listen to our podcast version. Yes, it's something for everybody, isn't it? So let's just jump in. Act 1. Descended from the heavens. Picture the scene. It's 1963. You're an impoverished farmer from Yerba Buena, a tiny isolated farming village at the feet of Mexico's Sierra Madre Mountains, entering a mountainside cave in the dead of night. I'd never be doing that. Stay out of caves at night. There's bears. You can have a bad time. By the firelight from the torches inside, you can make out the exhausted faces of almost everyone you've ever known gathered together. Sounds unrealistic. There are 20 other families from the community, all gathered here to witness the fulfillment of a spectacular promise. A magical goddess is about to arrive and bless you all with riches. I heard that you should never start a fire inside a cave. Like if you're, getting a Tom Hanks on, and you're stuck on some island somewhere and you find a cave to live in because you're like, fantastic, and you're like, how can I make this cave warm? Start a fire. Apparently you're not supposed to do that. Don't know if this is for sure, because it can like crack the rock or whatever and cause like a cave in. See what I did there? Houston, we have a problem. For months, the entire village has been praying to this pagan idol. On the instructions of her two high priests, the Hernandez brothers, everyone donated a huge percentage of their meager earnings and possessions, fattened the two prophets up on as much food as they could spare, and engaged in bizarre ritual orgies at their commands. All of this to win the favor of the powerful and exiled Inca gods. Ah, yes, religious fanatic. I love how this is just a story as old as time. It's like, yeah. I speak with God, so give me money. It's like, the televangelists are basically the modern version of this, aren't they? Although this was in 1963, which is, the history of religion. Fairly modern. For centuries, there were rumors of gold buried in the Sierra Madre Mountains, hidden in one of the hundreds of caves around the area. The Hernandez brothers promised that their old gods would lead the villagers to one of these millionaire-making caches. But when the months wore on with no result, a group of farmers confronted the brothers with an ultimatum: show them some results soon or the party was over. So the prophets promised to have a chat with the Inca gods to see what they could rustle up. That's why everyone was gathered in this muggy cave late at night. The brothers are back, and they claim that the mother goddess Kawitska someone won't be far behind. All the people had to do was complete the summoning ritual. Watching the brothers drain the blood from a goat for the umpteenth time, the people were probably still more than a little skeptical. It all just seems like more of the same empty promises. But everyone else is just desperate for a miracle. These guys already have all of their stuff and most of their dignity, so they were really holding out for some positive returns. So, yeah, look, any situation where someone's like, yeah, I have this access to like unlimited wealth and gold or stock market tips in the modern world, all you have to do is give me some money and I'll give you access to this unlimited magical gold supply or stock market tips or crypto or whatever it is. Just think about it. If they had this magical knowledge about where the gold is, well, why would they need money from you? It's always a scam. Don't do it. Once the goat is dead and the chanting is over, a new prophet approaches the altar. He's introduced as the high priest of Kotilq, and in a booming voice he congratulates the villagers. The ritual worked, and the goddess's arrival is imminent. He chants some spells in a strange language, and everyone jumps back in shock as a flash of light bursts out from the back of the cave, leaving a thick cloud of smoke behind. The smoke dissipates along with the last of their skepticism, because there she is, the goddess, all dolled up in a necklace of bones, Aztec-style garb, and an elaborate ceremonial headdress. What? If I was these guys, I'd be like, yo, I don't care about this. I don't care about this. Where's my gold? Everyone drops their knees in unison to worship the living goddess before them, begging for her salvation. But while their foreheads are pressed against the cold rock of the cave floor, they miss something. A wry smile passes over the faces of the Hernandez bros. Everything went perfectly according to plan. And it's not the fact that the goddess shows up and leads them to the gold. That's not it. They're going to murder everyone somehow, aren't they? The fact behind the fiction. Now, I doubt we have any ancient Incan god worshippers listening, so I can probably safely say this without offending anyone. They're not real. Yeah, none of this is real. And I know I'm going to offend some people saying that, but it's not. It's not. And keen listeners might already notice that, even if they were, they probably wouldn't be hanging out in Mexico. The Incans come from Peru. It's the Aztecs the Hernandez brothers were thinking of, and who Kotoku belonged to. And by the way, I have no idea if that is how you pronounce Kotoku. It's very strangely spelled, and I didn't look it up. That because I'm a lazy podcast host. That should hardly be a surprise, though, because it's pretty obvious that nothing about the Hernandez sex cult was authentic. What a surprise. An inauthentic sex cult. Santos and Cayetano rocked up to Yerba Buena in late 1962, and after realizing how financially desperate the poorly educated villagers were, they sensed an opportunity. I'll just mention him, Jen, who I mentioned, he edits this podcast. She's always like, Simon, my favorite episodes. She speaks Spanish, so she's always like, Simon, the Spanish ones are my favorites. You struggling with the Spanish pronunciation. I'm sorry, Jen. I could make more of an effort, I know. And after realizing how financially desperate the poorly educated villagers were, they sensed an opportunity. Ah, look, poor uneducated people. The perfect opportunity to exploit. Up until now, the two con men had made a meager living from hopping from town to town, pulling off a string of minor scams. But now their appetites for deception were growing, with no school, police station, or church in town. Yeah, but when I gave them a free license to pull off their most ambitious con. On the morning of their arrival, Santos and Cayetano gathered the residents in the middle of the ramshackle village and proclaimed themselves to be prophets of the old gods. Simple as that, apparently. Who would soon return to punish the heretics. True believers, however, would be rewarded for their devotion with incredible wealth. Given the myths of ancient treasure hidden in the mountains, this played into the villagers' fondness for folk. The brothers then used a bunch of cheap sleight-of-hand tricks to convince the people that they possess supernatural powers. Us enlightened modern minds might feel like turning our noses up at these rural farmers for falling for it so easily, but just look at how many everyday people are drawn in by Nigerian print scams and cryptocurrency scams every single year. The common denominator is desperation. Yeah, it totally is, and it's sad. And these people for tricking in people who are either not bright. It's not even about not being bright enough. It's just not being like educated in the way. It's not even. It's just not being educated in the ways of scams. It kind of sucks. And by kind of sucks, I mean it totally sucks. How about people just being less decent? But then I'm sure like the Nigerian prince guys are also pretty desperate. So it's all a bit sad. Seeing this as their only chance to escape extreme poverty, yes. The 50 or so villagers that called here went home, donating what they had to the cause. This admittedly wasn't very much, as their main source of income was selling whatever small amounts of corn and beans were left over from their harvests. Underwhelmed with the material gains, the brothers soon demanded that the women and young girls of the village act as their sexual slaves. When they got bored of that, they included the men as well. One source even claims that the Hernandez brothers sold teenage girls to human traffickers from the border towns after abusing them. Such was their power over the village that the people continued to reply. Desperation does incredible things. Every few days, the community would gather in the caves filled with cannabis smoke and ritual incense for the aforementioned animal sacrifices and orgies. God knows how they managed to stay in the mood. I always find it a major turn-off when a woman kicks a romantic evening off by slitting the throat of the goat. That's weird, McCallum. I mean, I'm totally into that. I'm really into animal sacrifices in the bedroom. That's weird. That was sarcasm. No, people are going to be like, righty, it's Simon, don't kink shame. Some people are just into animal sacrifices. It's a fetish. I'm like, that it is. That it is. That it is. And after suffering 3 months of these perverse rituals, those stingy Incan gods hadn't even given up a single piece of gold. The villagers were understandably feeling a bit shortchanged. So that's when the brothers promised to bring their complaints to upper management. Lesser con men would have just cut their losses and run, but Santos and Cayetano were committed to the grift. They promised the people a goddess, and they were damn well going to deliver one. They travelled to the town of Monterey, base camp of their sex trafficker associates, to find a suitable accomplice. There they met a pimp named Elazar Solis, who knew a woman perfect for the role, his sister, Magdalena Solis. The 18-year-old had been working under her brother as a prostitute since the age of 12. Just thought we had to revisit that one, just out of the disgusting absurdity of it. She was forced into the job out of poverty. Not much is known about her backstory, but safe to say that it must be pretty darn tragic. What we do know is that Magdalena was also no stranger to good supernatural scams. She supplemented her income by working as a medium and fortune teller. Her speciality was channeling the spirits of deadly witches. After years spent pretending to summon satanic spirits, playing a literal goddess reborn only take just a little bit of adjustment, so she and her brother rode back to Yerba and Hernandez rose ready to take their con to the next level. The night of her big debut in the cave was the pimp Elazar, playing the high priest, and the magical puff of smoke, just a bit of flash powder released by the conmen. They had all the production value of a zero-budget B-movie, but it was more than enough to keep the hopes of the villagers alive. However, there was one thing that the conmen hadn't planned for: getting into character. It was easy for Magdalena. It was getting out that was the problem. As she stepped through the smoke and assumed the role of the goddess that night, she started down a slippery slope of religious psychosis. High up on her first ever taste of power and an endless supply of peyote and weed, she started believing that she actually was the Incan mother goddess after all. Holy well, yeah, your life's been pretty damn tragic. You'd be like, yeah, no, I'm just going to escape into fantasy right now. Honestly, don't blame you at all. Yeah, that might not have been a problem, but as you know, Aztec gods aren't exactly the love and forgiveness type. Oh god, if she was going to start sacrificing children. What was this episode called again? The High Priestess of Blood? Oh dear. Hard to be a god. Perhaps by drawing on her own deep well of trauma, Magdalena soon injected the rituals of the Hernandez cult with her own brand of perversion. Not content to have an entire village as her sexual slaves, the drugged-up goddess ups the ante to include bloodletting. In Aztec mythology, human blood is supposed to sustain the god's immortality and to prevent the end of days. So, at her commands, the cultists started slurping down blood like a bunch of degenerate Catholics on a Sunday. Magdalena would cut their skin, drain the blood into a ritual chalice, mix it with peyote, and pass it around. With everyone whipped into a mad religious fervor, by mad religious fervor we mean crazy peyote trip, Magdalena then commanded them to engage in incest, bestiality, and even pedophilia for her amusement. You could double down on that Catholic joke here, but it might be a bit much. Nah, it's good, Cat. Do good. Do good on that one. In mind. By now, the goddess herself was the one in control. Even if Hernandez's brothers wanted to stop her, they were powerless to. In the eyes of the villagers, she was their master. So things only got darker from there. Dude, darker? Darker? Where are we going? A few weeks into her terrible reign, a couple of villagers started voicing concerns about how the Queensville village had become a vision of hell. Plus, there was still no bloody gold. The goddess dumped these two concerned citizens heretics and ordered the rest of the villagers to lynch them. Terrified of what horrible curse she might all out, they obeyed and beat two of their own to death. A door is box was now militarily open. In the following weeks, the Hernandez brothers officially integrated these enables into the rituals themselves. If the faith of any of the villagers wavered, Magdalena would have them beaten and carried to the caves. There, each villager took a turn cutting, beating, burning, and dismembering these human sacrifices to please the goddess. Gods, too far. What happens? Well, we went from like a con and like a weird sex cult to like straight up crazy murders. Cisco Jim Jones suddenly. The ceremonies ended with her drinking a cocktail of the victims' blood mixed with chicken blood and psychedelics. After drinking it, she passed the chalice on to the priests and the villagers themselves. The Grunan woman and child drank the sharing blood, believing it would grant them magical powers. And honestly, after consuming that much peyote, they probably were like, yeah, definitely believing it. I'd understand why I'd probably believe it after that much peyote. Soon, not even that was enough for Coatlicus Solis. After sacrificing several followers, the ancient Aztec goddess starts to implement the most gruesome aspect of Aztec rituals. With her victim pinned to the altar, she used her ceremonial dagger to cut their beating heart out of their bodies while they were still alive. Sebastian Guerrero and the Temple of Doom. If I've got the timeline right, it took Maximilian Solis less than 2 months to raise the stakes from ritual orgies to amateur open heart surgery. At this impressive rate, the whole village would soon have been sliced to pieces at her command, but luckily Magdalena was about to get a major reality check from the law. I'm glad the police seem to actually exist in some capacity, because I believe, where have you been? It all started with a chance encounter. That's how the police found out about this. One evening in May 1963, a 14-year-old boy named Sebastian Guerrero was out wandering alone. When he approached the outskirts of Buena, he spotted something odd on the mountainside, a flickering light coming out of a cave. As he walked up to investigate, he heard sounds coming from the mouth, partly from the hot like the hum of wild animals, and it smelled like it was ritual incense in the air. He crept up to the opening and crouched behind a rock. By the firelight, he saw one of Kotaku's late-stage rituals in full swing. Alina herself stood at the altar with a human heart in hand. Oh my god, if I was a kid and I saw that, I'd just be like, did I accidentally eat some peyote? Have I been hitting the ayahuasca again? A dismembered victim lay life in this hollow stone slab where some villagers sliced into it with their machetes and drained the blood into chalices. The rest of them were busy ranting away in a massive orgy on the cave floor. If it weren't for the whole murder thing, the teenager might have stopped to watch for a while, but Guerrero did the smart thing and ran down the mountain as fast as he could. Out of here. He never stopped or slowed down until he reached the town of Legand, 15 miles away. God damn, man, that's a good run. There he found the police station and tried to explain to the cops what he had seen. A cave full of maniacs drinking blood like vampires. So, nobody believed him at first because it sounded like something a teenager would maybe was a prey. But the kid was insistent, visibly shaken. The police to send Officer Luis Martinez back up with him to investigate. Dude, can you at least send more than one cop? Don't they always work in pairs? One cop should never be going anywhere, especially as to what would be cutting up a whole orgy in a cave miles away from anywhere in the mountains. I don't know if this is going to go wrong, but if it does, what the f***? As the days wore on with no news from either of them, brilliant. The officers started to think that the young boy's mad ramblings might have been true. The end times. The cops in Villagrán contacted their superiors in the state capital, Lucio and Victoria. They launched preliminary investigations into the disappearance and started to hear some worrying rumors about what went on in the cabins around Buena. Now they began discussing the serious possibility of a devil worshipping cult in the mountains. The cops enlisted their own soldiers based in the state capital to march on this satanic little enclave. So, towards the end of the month, the march was in the police and they drove to Buena to find the two missing men. La Policia stormed through the town and kicked down the door of every farmhouse where Magdalena Solis and their brother pulled up. Inside, the two of them laid stoned out of their nuts on cannabis and peyote, making the arrest a fairly laid-back affair, probably for everyone involved. You finally caught me. I'm sure everything will be fine. It's like, yo, Solis, you've been cussing the hearts out of people. They're gonna be fine. We got the death penalty in Mexico. Do they? I assume yes, especially back in the day. Someone's gonna be killed. Santos Hernandez put up the fighting round at the back door and tried to make a break for the mountains, firing back at the officers as he went. The cops shot him dead. Yeah, that was an error. Especially if you're like super high on peyote, you're not going to be a brilliant shot, are you? This sent villagers into a panic. They probably assumed their all-powerful goddess could transform the invaders into snakes or something. But there she was, getting dragged out of bands and handcuffs. So those who could turned and ran the mountains, seeking refuge in these sacred caves. The army ran up the slopes after them, but met with gunfire when they approached the barricaded entrance of the main shrine. The shootout ensued, and the villagers were mostly outgunned. Dozens died. Those that didn't were forced to walk out with their hands up in surrender. And so the entire surviving population of the Buena were loaded into army trucks and cast off to jail. When the dust settled, the cops started searching for the missing man and the teenage witness, but it was too late to save them. God damn it. They found Martinez and Guerrero in a room at the Solis farmhouse, dead and dismembered. The goddess and her priests had cut the police heart out of his chest. Near the cave itself were the bodies of 6 more victims, 2 lynched men, 4 sacrificed over the last 2 months. They also found the other Hernandez brother, Cayetano. At first, the officers thought he had been killed in the crossfire during the skirmish, but it turned out that he too was murdered by his own followers. Back when the cop and witness were killed, the villagers probably knew trouble would follow. Tensions must have been running higher than ever, and it seems like the high priests must have lost some control. Cayetano Hernandez refused to oblige, was promptly shot dead. With the two con men dead, their goddess, the high priest in chains, and their followers either shot down or arrested. The story of the short-lived but terrible Hernandez cult was at an end. Aftermath. Although really it should have been called the Solace Cult, while the two brothers might have founded it, it was Magdalena who really made the case of Darwin for the history books. Their part-in-law saying she and her brother Elazar were sentenced to 50 years behind bars on 2 counts of homicide. Wow, I'm really surprised you killed a cop and a kid, and you get 50 years behind bars. That seems quite generous. What, she was 30? No, she was 18. She was 18, right? So she'll be out. She's 68. I mean, assuming she lives. Someone, I don't think, someone like the debate about personal life rehabilitations. And also see it. I don't know. Just, I thought she'd get it. These were the deaths of Guerrero and the young boy Martinez. As for the other bodies, prosecutors couldn't prove that the diabolical duo were directly to blame for their deaths. That's because obviously the cultists were willing to testify against their goddess. No Judas here. Really, they still were like, I guess, you want to believe. Crazy. I mean, if you genuinely believed she was an ancient powerful deity, then you probably wouldn't snitch either. But why stick by her even once it was proven that she had no magical powers? Well, I guess this one's hardly a family of maids to death. Some cost fallacy kicks in pretty hard. This was just stay the course until the Aztec gods break you out of jail. Then imagine that you swindled into becoming an incestuous murderer. But yeah, I mean, your brain is just protecting you at that point. You're like, yeah, no, it's definitely real. It's definitely all real, right? It's 100% real. As a result, everyone in the cultists shared the crimes. The fact that they were a largely illiterate, isolated community preyed on by manipulative con man was a mitigating factor, but it's not quite a get out of jail free card. Each of them was sentenced to 30 years for gang murder or lynching. That sucks. I mean, they murdered people, but they were like crazy manipulated and taken advantage of this stuff. I don't know how I feel about that. It does it feel proportionate to 50 years of the leader cult. It would be years before any of them would speak openly about their experiences at the cult, never late and potentially untrustworthy testimony. It's why some sources speculate, despite the fact that only 8 bodies were found, the actual number of murders might be as high as double that. Perhaps some unlucky travelers stumbled across the village in these dark months and weren't able to escape. To wrap things up, I'd like to point out one of the maddest things about this case is that it sounds like something from hundreds of years ago. It's happened in the middle of the 20th century. I guess it's always true, and it always will be. Wherever there's desperation, there's always people willing to pray. Desperate with fantasies of massive wealth. On a completely unrelated note, let me remind you that all the Aztec cultists started with mountains. It just happens that mine possess the only map of existence inherited by my uncle. Prince of Ghana. Damn. You just send me like 2 or 3 Bitcoin or fax it over ASAP. I mean, it's sad that people do fall for this. I think because scams are like clever. They worked it out, and so many people, and they just blast it out to so many people. Dismembered appendix. One. If you look at the legends behind the Aztec gods, Magdalena's Coach Q impression was actually pretty pitch perfect. Their creation is the one the goddess gives birth to 400 gods and goddesses who turn on her while she's pregnant with the 401st child. The head Coach Q, whose blood spurts out as 2 snakes, then she posthumously gives birth to Kunlun, the god of war, with a long and unpronounceable name. The fully grown newborn comes out armed, slays dozens of his siblings, tosses one of their heads in the sky, which becomes the moon, which is surely the most metal thing in history. Yes, indeed. And this has been an episode of The Casual Criminalist. I do hope you enjoyed it. I mean, I often just go to that default saying and explaining what I think is that. If you are enjoying this podcast in general, please do consider leaving it a review. It's always preferred. You don't have to give it what you think it deserves. If you're like, this is like a 2-star podcast, then give it 2 stars, I guess. You listened to the end, didn't you? You liked it enough. I think that should be at least 4. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, please do comment below, smash the like button, make sure you subscribe to all the interesting stuff. Thank you for watching.
Hi there, I'm Maggie Lawson, and I am the host of the new lifestyle podcast, Me Time. I believe taking some me time is very important for for our overall well-being. And I feel like I become pretty good at knowing how to recharge my batteries. If you're up for the adventure of diving into topics like travel, wine, wellness, pretty much everything, listen wherever you get your podcasts and join me every week for a little me time.
Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Casual Criminals. This one already going to struggle with. The Kudo Kai, the downfall of Japan's most violent yakuza, and this is going to be Japanese pronunciations. And Callum, Callum, you didn't know, he's British like me, but he also lives in a different country. He lives in Japan, and so he's probably going to be listening to the subtitles for this Japanese pronunciation. My soul. I'm sorry, Callum. I'm sorry to every Japanese listeners. Also, I feel like the cover of you was really good. I don't know if that's just how just is not super good. What's going on? If you're new to the show, what happens here is Callum, who I've already mentioned, the guy in Japan, British mediums. What am I talking about? He's written me a script. I'm going to read it, and then Jen, the producer of the show, is going to put some music and some images and some graphics and all that good stuff together. Let's get into this. Today we're taking a break from all of the gore and misery of serial killers. Well, forget everything I said in my introduction then, Callum, and I apologise, audience. And veering off into the wild world of Oriental organised crime, few gangsters are more iconic than Japan's tattoo-covered yakuza. Japan's mafia clans have been popularised in everything from movies to video games, and even in their own dedicated fan magazines. It's like magazines glorify criminals. Despite their place in popular culture, real-life yakuza culture is actually in decline. Government crackdowns and internal schisms have been turning the screw on the gangs, and their ranks are dwindling fast as the result. But against the backdrop of rapid decline, there's one group that seems determined to go down. Guns blazing. And at this moment, an operatic true crime saga is just about wrapping up in the Japanese courts. One of the nation's top mafia gangs, by far the most ruthless of their time, is being held to account for decades of violence. We're looking into the story of their decades-long reign of terror and the pushback from cops and ordinary citizens, which eventually brought them down. This is the story of the Kudo Kai, the downfall of Japan's most violent yakuza. Death of a Fisherman. Late at night, on the 18th of February, 1998, Kunihiro Kajiwara walked out to the bar in the southern city of Kitakyushu, Fukuoka Prefecture. The 70-year-old was the head of the fisheries court about drinks with colleagues. Earlier in the week, Kajiwara had voiced his opposition to the construction of a marine pier in the city, which he meant he was hopelessly ignorant or extremely brave. That's because the company which was proposing the construction project was backed by the local mafia, the Kudo Kai, and even among the rogues gallery of Japanese yakuza gangs, this not well known for his zero punches, Mr. Kajiwara was about to find out that the hard way. As he stumbled out onto the street on that cold February night, two men in black approached him, pointed a drill pistol and shot the old man 4 times from point blank range. Kajiwara was dying of poison, but there was little doubt as to who was to blame. The old man was the first victim of this more retaliation, and he would be lost. His murder was the first episode in a decades-long saga, which ultimately ended with the downfall of the mafia boss from the hit and the subsequent collapse of his vicious gang. But unfortunately for the people of Kyushu, they still had a few more decades. Yeah, mafia is intense. For some reason, I had a dream the other day that I was being extorted by the mafia for protection money. Like some guy just came to my studio and demanded money. So I see come next door, like by my office, and I was like, okay. So I paid him the money. I was like, he's just going to come back with more money as me. It's like, mafia sucks. The Kudo Kai. Before we go any further, a bit of background on exactly who these guys are. The Kudo Kai, like many other Japanese yakuza clans, began back in the pre-war days as illegal gambling outfit. Throughout the 20th century, they grew in power to become the dominant criminal group in the post-industrial city of Kitakyushu, down Japan's southernmost mainland. They generally hire new recruits from youth gangs and prison populations, sending their employees to work in drug dealing, prostitution, racketeering, and all of that fun stuff. And it's a big money business. One expert reported making always 19,000 $1,000 a month, collecting drug debts and 10 years of smashing kneecaps, they could already start thinking about retiring, which is not a bad deal at all. Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad deal at all if you are totally okay with danger and smashing kneecaps. I mean, like, 90 grand a month is a lot of money, but I don't really want to become a criminal. Thanks. But it's not all about vice and violence. What's especially surprising for an outsider is how public these mafias are. Each is a publicly registered organization, really. I mean, that must just be like a front, right? Like, the criminal one has like a fake business to like launder money, like a car wash, like a really bad one, right? And they conduct illegal business above all while ruling the underworld behind the scenes. The clans even have their own publicly registered headquarters. There are criminal kings of Kitai Yushu, that's Kudakai Hall, White Horse compound in the centre of the city, protected with barbed wire and security cameras. From here, boss Santoro Aurora, who took power 12 years ago, orchestrated the gang's activities. He might not immediately appear threatening. In fact, with his tailored suit and slicked back hair, he looks like any number of everyday salaryman. However, he's definitely not someone who wants to mess with. At the end of 2014, he had an estimated 870 members and millions under his command, willing to slash his enemies to ribbons and then drop their hats. Yeah, I mean, just that he's wearing a nice suit doesn't mean he's not super scary and dangerous. And also, didn't the accuser remind us, this might be just some movie negative that I imagine it's made up, or did they just have the tattoos like they avoided the neck part of the body? Because then if you had a shirt, they couldn't see the tattoos, and then when you took the shirts, you were like, body labeled, like when you wear the clothes, you might be the tattoos, which I mean, that's pretty smart. That's honestly like seems like good advice, because I see a lot of people that walk around like with neck tattoos that kind of go up to their head. And I'm like, that might be cool now, but it wasn't cool 10 years ago. I don't know if it will be cool 10 years from now when you're looking for a job. And they're like, we don't, you know, we work in a customer facing industry and we don't really want the giant servants necks. So I just feel like visible tattoos, like no more tattoos go through. Visible tattoos. It's like that income. That's just yeah, Navarro's gang really seemed to have missed the memo about keeping a low profile. While most accused follow a strict code of conduct which prohibits the murder of civilians, these guys just kind of say, well, that noise, so if you sign up with the guy, you're pretty much guaranteed the full GTA experience. Fast cars, heavy weaponry, and heaps of unnecessary violence. All stuff that I love in GTA. Immensely enjoy GTA. Things I want from GTA in real life. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Maybe the nice weather. I'm not exaggerating here. 2012, police even busted one member in possession of a rocket launcher. That's a 4-star multi-level most of that. Yeah, maybe you can get 6 of those GTA like way too much GTA. They're not shy about using their arsenals of weapons either. For example, when Chinese tribes try to bust it on their turf by opening a massage parlor without their blessing. Massage parlor. Yeah, quotes. Get the feeling that might be some prostitution going on there. The Kudukai responded by lobbing frag grenades at the Chinese consulate and assaulting the London with shotguns. Wait, what's in the Chinese consulate to do? It's just Chinese gangs. It's so weird. Even XPM Shinzo Abe felt linked up to the gang back in 2000. His home was started with Molotov cocktails by the Kudukai because one of his aides refused to pay a bribe. Looking too mental, even for a fellow Yakuza, nobody is off limits. But alas, it was the indiscriminate mentalness of the Kudukai who eventually lead to their downfall. If you like throwing Molotov cocktails in the Prime Minister's house, like, he's going to be like, yo, Japanese FBI, how about we start some sort of anti-Yakuza gang task force on the Prime Minister, right? Is anyone going to object to this? Probably not. Probably not. Campaign of terror. So now you're aware of who we're dealing with. Kudokai, more like full-blown domestic terrorists than standard mafiosos. Throughout the past 50 years, they regularly employ these shotgun tactics to gain a stranglehold on your construction world in their territory, with boss Aurora ordering an ever-escalating string of attacks against anyone who disagrees. These guys are not like, I don't know, I've made a bunch of videos around the channel biographics of people to cover like American mafia figures in there, sort of like Italian, etc. And it's like, that always seems really violent to me. Intense. And it's like, yeah, the Japanese guys, no. We're attacking the consul while the Chinese were attacking the consul. We're attacking the Prime Minister's house. We've got rocket launchers. You're going to have a bad day. It's like when the American mafia were like, yeah, we killed all the mafia, but we did like, big deal, American mafia, you're not so big now. Please don't kill me. Hence the murder of the aforementioned fishing co-op head in 1998. These intimidation tactics allowed Moscow to charge anything from 1 to 3% of all contracting work in the city. Oh my god, it's everything. There's going to be a huge amount of money overall. Two low-level funds went down on the murder not long after, but everyone knew the orders had come way up high. Still, as long as the top bosses kept their own hands clean, the mob was powerless to stop them. Don't they generally offer the guys lower down immunity to grass on the guys above them, and then they get those guys in, and they're like, hey, grass on the guys above you, kind of idea. And eventually they get to the top, and they get some sort of like Japanese or whatever. Good. I think so much about Mafia from those videos we made. Some of them I think it's good fellas, but I've seen a lot of Mafia movies. I learned so much about Mafia making those biographic videos. Like Mafia Pro and not really balance. However, things started really heat up around 2011 when the city and the nation as a whole started pushing back against organised crime. 1 year prior, the government passed a law making it mandatory to report extortion attempts from men or ordinary citizens who were associating with the gangs. They could find themselves jailed or fined. It's like this signal of death of the golden era of gangsters. That seems like a super sensible. Corruption is bad for everyone, except for people who get bribes. It's bad for society. While many of the biggest Yakuza organizations took the hits and started expanding their legal operations, the Kukai took a different approach. Have you seen the last act of Scarface? Something like that. What follows is basically a greatest hits from the last 10 years, showcasing the mental stuff of Boston Aura that is very, very got up to. 2011. In February 2011, a middle-aged security guard showed up at work in the Shimizu Corporation construction site as they were farming and in the military retirement. Usually, some teenagers were on events, but unfortunately, the guy's employer had recently pissed off the city's top crime gang. Look up yourself in, say, Shimizu Corp was among several companies who had banded together against the Kunikai's racketeering attempts and refused to pay, but if the Kunikai weren't paid in cash, they collected their debts in blood. Over the past 5 years, they have been launching regular attacks against the company's offices, so the employees basically knew what to expect. After 17th time, a frag grenade knocked your coffee mug over, you barely passed it. I'm not going to just notice it's not guns. It's not like one that people on the street. It's like, no. It's literal grenades into offices. Nonetheless, the guard was taken by surprise that night when a black car showed up at his post around 7 p.m. As the car cruised past the entrance to the construction site, a passenger rolled down his window. The guard shouted out, and the reply was a gunshot, which caught him in the stomach. As he crumpled to the ground, the driver fled off. For a gang famous for their hatred, use this attack as killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Thankfully, they didn't actually kill